Welcome back, everyone. President Joe Biden speaking exclusively to the Weather Channel last night, of all networks, right? He wanted to focus on climate change, and after Biden touted what he calls his administration's work in conserving land, rejoining the Paris Climate Accord, and passing a $368 billion climate control facility, he then was asked, quote, "So you've already declared that national emergency pertaining to climate change?"
Well, yeah, and watch this as a bug distracts the president.
So you've already declared that national emergency?
Well, in the practice, you have a bug on it.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate it. So you've already declared that national emergency?
Practically speaking, yes.
Yeah.
Hey, nice guy. Get the bug off.
So awkward. Wow.
The president's interview comes after yesterday's speech. Well, he was in the outdoors, surrounded by the juniper and pinon trees. Anyway, it comes after his speech about the Reduction Act and its impact on fighting climate change.
Let's talk about this and talk about some Bidenomics. Here to discuss former Georgia Senate candidate Matt Lieberman. He's also a publisher at the Blockchain Income Report. And Melanie Collette with us, former vice chair of the New Jersey Federation of Republican Women and host of Money Talk with Melanie. Welcome into you both.
Thank you.
Hard-hitting journalism. Obviously, he talks to, Guru Jay Shetty, People Magazine. This is who he's sitting down with. They called it historic, but meteorologist Stephanie Abrams got the assignment, and she was asking him about Gen Z, and she kind of led with, tell us you haven't broken your promise when it comes to drilling on federal land or offshore, and this is what he had to say, guys.
Yes, because the courts overruled me. The court said I couldn't do it. I wanted to stop all drilling on the East Coast and the West Coast and in the Gulf, but I lost in court.
Gen Z, it really is a narrative here. Nothing like energy independence that we had a few years ago, right? Melanie, first your reaction to this sit down?
Exactly. And, who do we want to go to when it comes to energy policy? Let's go to the absolute youngest, most inexperienced generation. No shade on Gen Z, but why would you not go to experienced energy policymakers? And why wouldn't we want, as a nation, to be energy independent? It's ridiculous to me. And you see that the gas prices are going up once again. And I don't understand why Gen Zers are not concerned about that. Maybe because they still live with their parents. And so, the high gas prices doesn't hit them quite as hard.
Exactly. Yeah.
Matt, I want to bring you in on this, and I want to get your thoughts on President Biden talking about the military aiding in, again, what he calls this climate stuff. Listen to this soundbite, and then I want to get your reaction.
How is the U.S. preparing the military?
Well, we're preparing the military by trying to deal with the climate stuff. For example, many of the bases that have flooded, many of these massive floods, they've flooded out military bases in the Midwest and the South. That has a profound impact on readiness.
So we know that the Biden administration has authorized billions of dollars, Matt, for climate reforms, such as switching out vehicles that have zero emissions, EVs, that some GOP lawmakers are concerned could cripple our military's readiness and result in the U.S. relying too much on China for things like, batteries and other EV components. Do you agree with that argument?
I don't know, that answer by the president was pretty mishmashy to my ears. Look, if he is trying to get himself moving towards his reelection, rather than being out of the Grand Canyon, unless he just wants to go there because it's beautiful, which it is, he ought to be, despite what we just talked about, he ought to be at the gas pump, because perhaps prices are going up some, but they're way down from last year, for example. And I think more Americans care about basic costs like that, how it's impacting their everyday lives, than Joe Biden talking about the military and talking about how that connects with the environment and flipping a bug off. It's all besides the point. And I think Biden would do much better, and I think it's much more natural to him to focus on bread and butter issues like energy costs, which have come down. Unfortunately, costs at the grocery store, for example, have continued on an upward trajectory, even as inflation overall has come down. But there is a good story to tell for him. It's not 100% good, but there are some real bright points, and why he's out there making obscure points about the environment, which don't really make 100% sense, I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, the one thing I would argue on that is that, pouring money into the military to essentially go green is affecting people, obviously, because it's our tax dollars that essentially are going into that. So in the end, that's going to factor into the overall equation.
Well, I guess my point is that there are both better, more focused points for him to make about the environment, like the increased investment in alternative energy, which I think is good, along with continuing fossil fuel production.
Right.
But he should be making a big deal out of that and other things rather than making appointments. Yeah, I take your point, but I think for most voters, what the connection is between the military and the environment kind of confuses two issues instead of making one strong point.
Yeah,
well,
point.
and there's also a lot of bad things with the economy, though. And, he's not talking about a lot of those issues that are those kitchen table issues. We have Bank of America saying that more Americans tapping now into their 401k plans at an alarming rate. So basically, your future that you've worked so hard for is evaporating under this administration. Credit card balances, they are $1 trillion for the first time ever. I mean, if people default on their credit cards, I mean, that's huge fears of a recession. Melanie, I'm sure you talk about some of this on Money Talk. And also, mortgage rates are a, 30-year fixed rate now, 7.09%, the highest since 2022. Bidenomics just doesn't seem like a plan. This, is a re-election slam dunk here. I don't know why they're pushing it so hard, though.
I do talk about that quite a bit, and what people need to understand, and they don't get, is that it's not just at the pump where when gas prices get high, it's problematic. It also drives inflation because goods and services are delivered via trucks and vehicles that use fossil fuels. And that makes the price of those things higher. The Inflation Act or the Uninflation Act or whatever they're calling it, it should be called the Hey, Here's More Inflation Act, infused more money into the economy, which also drives inflation, is also costing people more money, and all of it is problematic.
Yeah, definitely. And beautiful backdrop, as he did get that, a lot of nice photo ops there, but certainly some troubling headlines there for hardworking Americans. Matt Lieberman, Melanie, Collette, thank you so much. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
You too. Likewise.